the efforts of the community to make it grow and more effective, combined together, are very positive and dynamic trends. Nigel, I think you wanted to...
Madam Chairman, may I intervene and make a clarification? I did not say that policy implementation is solely the responsibility of governments. I reject that, and I don't mean to sound insulting, but I want to make the point. The multi-stakeholder model produces policy. The implementation of that policy could vary from individual organizations, private sector organizations, governments, etc. So I hope no one misunderstands. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Nigel, please.
Just very quickly, to pick up what Vince said, I think, really, and I hadn't said it very clearly, in that things have developed so much since 2005. Obviously, in the technology, in the use of the technology, in the policies relating to the internet, and surely some of this has to be reflected. I mean, we've seen the energy in this room and the energy at Net Mondial in terms of the discussion on public policy issues. We see energy in other fora as well, and that is the real testament to what we're doing in this space. I mean, the UN have an important role to play. The review of the WSIS outcomes was set down in the Tunis agenda, and a process has to go on. But the energy here and what people are discussing here and what people are discussing in regional and national IGFs matters just as much. And I think we really have to take that into account. And I think we're going to see, as we move forward, a very positive agenda because of what the IGF has spawned regionally and nationally. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth, please.
Just one further comment, because I didn't mention it in my earlier remarks, about one of the things that concerns us to see still in the document, and I think it's something we would all agree to, and it would be useful if we reinforced it, is that governments are a stakeholder, like the rest of us. They are a stakeholder. And so where in the document it separates governments from others and other stakeholders, I think we feel really resistant to allowing that distinction to be made in certain cases without, because where we were talking before about the language around multilateral and then after that, I don't have the draft in front of me, but after that it refers to this idea of with the inclusion of other stakeholders. I think this is very, very problematic, and that if we were to support collectively the recognition that they are among the stakeholder community like the rest of us.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We just have a few minutes left, and I think one of the main questions that remains is what's next? What can we do in the coming weeks? How can we work with local governments to try to influence the process? And I'd like to ask Raúl to say a few words, please.
Thank you, Constanza. My name is Raúl Echeverría. I'm Vice President for Global Engagement and Internet Society. It is only 35 days from now to the high-level meeting in December in UN. When we started to work on that, it seemed that it would never happen. That was more than 1 year ago, but now it's very close. And in fact, if we think that the final document will be closer the week before that, it is just 1 month from now. And we have to do our best effort in this month to influence the position of governments. We have not just assumed that things will go well if we don't do anything. I have to say that some organizations that have spoken here are organizations that have realized the importance of this process. In the last meeting in New York, it was very clear that not all the organizations and people from the internet community is really giving the same importance to this process. And this is something that we have to reflect about in the next in this short time that we have until December. The session tomorrow is not a minor thing. It's very important. This is very important that the facilitators of the process come to IGF. It's a way to validating the importance of this forum. is a way to demonstrate that this governmental process that have been set in UN in New York cannot ignore the opinion of all stakeholders that come to IGF. And we have to take advantage of this opportunity, even if it is not a formal part of the WSIS review process. We have to take advantage of that for saying what we think about that. This is very important that we brief all our governments around the world, and I will tell you why. It is because at the end of the day, the governments those governments who doesn't have an own position, their own position on this process, will follow the recommendations of the big blocs like 77. And this is, we have realized, we have seen that some governments that have not been involved in the process, they are waiting to see what are the recommendations of the G77. And G77 are not 7 governments, are more than 120, I think, a big bloc. But when we start to talk with governments and governments start to develop their own positions, and this, we change that dynamic. It is very important that we engage in conversations with governments from our countries, from our regions, and this is a very good opportunity here in IGF because a lot of governments representatives are here. And in some cases they are the same that are participating in the WSIS review process, or at least they have the connections with the missions in UN in order to influence, to advise those missions. The final outcome, I think that will not be very far from what we can see today in the draft. There is no a lot of room for going very far from this draft because it will lose the support from many countries. But we are in that in the situation where slight changes in the document change the meaning of the things dramatically. As we can see with this discussion between multilaterality or multi-stakeholderism, this is one example of how one word has changed the meaning of all the agreement. And one of the reasons because we think that this is a very important process is because surely the WSIS review process and the post-WSIS review will confluence with the Sustainable Development Goals discussions, and we will be talking about those things for many years in this joint way. And probably those conversations will continue happening in New York. And this is something we have to learn how to influence the governments in New York. We have to learn how to participate, and claiming for more participation, and the colleague that already left made a very good point that we have to express our concerns that the way that usually governments work in UN in New York is not the way that we are accustomed to work, and we have all the right to claim for changes in those processes to really give opportunities to all stakeholders to participate. We know we don't have a very huge differences in what we expect from the process from now. And in fact, the things that have been mentioned as positive improvements in the documents, stronger language with regard to human rights, even if it doesn't satisfy expectations of all stakeholders. We have to agree that the language about human rights is stronger than what we could have expected 1 year ago, or even with regard to the previous draft. The renewal of IGF, the development, the focus on development, and the importance that the governments are given to development objectives in this agreement, the fact that there is not a call for a new summit, what for us is important because there is some urgency in making progress with regard to the development objectives. So it is time of working. It is time of really of working on actions. It's time of implementing things, not just to continue preparing a preparatory process that will bring us toward the next summit. This is very tiring. It's tiring, expensive in money, and expensive in human resources, in times that we spend, and we need to do other things. And the concerns are very clear. I think that there are some probably slight differences, but We have the same concerns about the multilateral expression in the document and the level of participation that we can expect in future processes and the follow-up of the WSIS review. So as the final call is that let's work together and let's really use in the most positive possible way the 30 days that we have in front of us until I think that's until the Sunday before the high-level meeting. There will be some discussions and additions on the document, and we have to be very alert and be working with the people that hold the pen. So just let's start right now.
Thank you very much, Raul, for this energy and inspiring conclusion. I realize many of you want to rush to the high level as it is starting. Marilyn, did you want to jump in, please?
Thank you. My name is Marilyn Cade. I want to thank Leah for the great introduction to the WSIS Plus 10 session, which opens tomorrow at 9, and say how important it is for all of you to come and to bring all of your friends. But I took the microphone for a different reason. I want to really reinforce the importance of the visibility of the national and sub-regional and regional IGFs. When I went to the UN meetings, the stakeholder meetings, I took the map of, I am coordinating the substantive session on Wednesday morning. I see several of the coordinators here. And when I went to the UN, I took a map and a list of the national and regional events and sat down with different governments and opened dialogue with governments who, because they're so busy in New York, they did not know there had been a national initiative in their country. And for 3 of the countries, they're now in dialogue talking about what happened at their national IGF. So you guys, if you, there is a session on Wednesday of the national and regional IGF's substantive dialogue, and please do really reach out and reinforce with the governments from your own country or from your region the visibility of the dynamic and important dialogue that is going on in those national and regional IGFs.
Thank you very much, Marilyn. I think we can wrap up the session now, as many of us want to run at the high-level meeting. We have a cross-community mailing list that we use for WSIS. If anyone is interested on being added to that mailing list, it's absolutely open, and we share informally information, as it's quite difficult to have updated information about WSIS Plus 10. Just let us know, Nicola or myself, and we'll be happy to add you to that list. Thank you very much for your participation.